What if the woman you love isn't falling for you, but for a shadow you didn't even know you were casting, a shadow you can never fully become? It always begins the same way. She gazes at you, not seeing the man you are, but the man she imagines you could be. You feel it in her stare, don't you? That spark of possibility. Or is it something hungrier? You think she's truly seeing you, but she's not. She's evaluating you, measuring you, scanning you like a blank page, ready for her to etch her grand vision. But that vision isn't about you. It never has been. Carl Jung, the man who spent his life peering into the depths of the human psyche, sounded the alarm. Not with the gentle encouragement of a life coach, but with the piercing clarity of someone who mapped the shadows of the soul. Jung devoted his existence to charting the unconscious, the hidden machinery of the mind that hums beneath your awareness. And he uncovered something unsettling about women. He realized they don't just fall for men. They fall for the idea of men, for the dream, the projection. And the most chilling part? Most of them don't even know they're doing it. You might believe she's choosing you, but what she's really choosing is a version of you she's crafted in her own imagination. A mental marionette, designed to star in her private drama. And when you stray from her script, she doesn't rewrite the story. She recasts the role. Jung named this projection the animus, the masculine archetype buried within every woman's psyche. When that animus is raw, unrefined, or unchecked, it becomes a dictator. It's the invisible force that drives women to pursue dangerous men while dismissing the steady ones. It fuels irrational arguments, unchecked dominance, and sanctimonious moralizing without accountability. Jung didn't soften the truth. He called it a kind of spiritual takeover, a state where a woman no longer acts from her own awareness, but is gripped by the shadow of her inner masculine ideal. And men, you fall into the trap because no one taught you how to see it. You mistake her desire for recognition. You confuse being chosen with being understood. You trust her when she says you're special, when in truth, you're just the latest figure she's cast to play a part she's been rehearsing since childhood. And when the illusion shatters, when the facade cracks, you're left bewildered, betrayed, and ashamed, wondering where you went wrong. But you didn't go wrong. You simply stopped being a convincing performer in her play. Jung warned that the only escape from this psychological stage is through individuation and the grueling, lifelong process of becoming whole within yourself. Here's the hard truth. Most men never begin this journey. You've been conditioned to seek approval, to crave validation, to let women define your value. As long as you do, you'll keep playing the same part, replaced each time the audience loses interest. Individuation isn't romantic, it's raw. It demands you face the parts of yourself you've buried, the weak, the uncertain, the broken. It requires you to stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. Because Jung understood something most men never will. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. Your worth isn't earned through her affection. It's forged by standing alone, awake, accountable, alive. A man who has confronted his own unconscious cannot be swayed by projection. He's no longer a puppet in someone else's story. He's the architect of his own reality. Jung observed that the greatest tragedy of modern men isn't rejection. It's their willingness to mold themselves into whatever shape they think will win acceptance. You call it compromise, you call it devotion, you call it love. But Jung had a harsher term: self-betrayal. He warned that men who neglect their own psychic growth become slaves to the feminine projection, twisting themselves like soft clay to fit the demands of women who don't even understand their own desires. You cease to be men. You become masks, smiling, complying, performing, until you forget who you were before the mask. And women? They sense it, more keenly than you could ever imagine. The very traits you think will win her love, compliance, predictability, availability, are the very reasons her attraction fades. Why? Because as Jung taught, the feminine instinct isn't drawn to safety. It's drawn to enigma, to danger, to the man she cannot fully grasp or control. The moment you lay yourself bare without boundaries or strength, you don't become more lovable, you become invisible, disposable, replaceable. And here's the paradox that keeps most men trapped. You fear solitude more than you fear being inauthentic. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. You'd rather live a role than face the terror of standing without validation. But Jung taught that until a man embraces that solitude, he will never be free. He wrote that individuation is not for the faint of heart. It demands you let the false versions of yourself die so something authentic can rise. And let's be honest, that path is lonely, painfully lonely, because as you walk it, you start to see things you can't unsee. You recognize the games people play, the masks they wear, the lies they tell themselves to feel secure. And when you try to share this truth, they'll ridicule you. They'll call you detached, prideful, overly serious. They'll say you're the problem, but you're not the problem. You're the mirror, and people despise mirrors when they reflect truths they're not ready to face. Jung knew this intimately. He spent decades studying patients who were too terrified to confront their shadow, the dark, disowned parts of their psyche they refused to acknowledge. And women, Jung warned, are often raised in societies that reward them for dodging this confrontation. They're told they're inherently pure, emotional, intuitive, complete as they are. But Jung didn't buy it. He argued that a woman's greatest danger is her unconscious animus, the inner voice that speaks with false confidence, false authority, and false righteousness. If she doesn't confront and integrate this force, she becomes its captive, projecting it onto every man she encounters, blaming them for the inner battle she refuses to fight. And you? You think you're her hero, the one who'll be different, that if you love her fiercely enough, prove yourself boldly enough, perform well enough, she'll choose you for you. But that's not how projection works. Jung taught that projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with delusion. Until both men and women awaken from that delusion, they're doomed to repeat the same tragedy, blaming each other while dancing with shadows. Here's the cruel irony. The woman who once saw you as her savior will one day see you as her adversary. Not because you changed, but because you failed to embody the fantasy she projected onto you. And she won't even realize she's doing it. Jung called this psychological betrayal inevitable when neither side takes responsibility for their own inner world. You didn't deceive her. You didn't betray her. You simply failed to live up to a character she invented in her unconscious. You were never that character, and that's why she resents you. Not for your flaws, but for failing to play the role she never told you you were cast for. Jung once wrote that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Nowhere is this truer than in romantic relationships. Men and women enter them not as whole beings, but as bundles of projections, dragging their unresolved fears, unmet needs, and childhood wounds into the arms of someone they barely know. You call it love. Jung called it possession. And like a man under a spell, you keep stepping into the same trap, believing this time will be different. But it never is, because you haven't asked the most terrifying question a man can ask himself. What if I'm the one creating this cycle? You want to blame women. You want to call them cunning, fickle, superficial. But Jung would look you in the eye and ask, why did you choose to be chosen by her in the first place? A man who refuses to confront his own anima, his inner feminine essence, is doomed to be enslaved by hers. You're not a victim, you're a participant. You chose to play the part, you chose to be the actor in her myth because facing your own void was far scarier than playing a role in someone else's fantasy. And here's where most of you will tune out, because this is where comfort ends and accountability begins. Jung didn't offer quick fixes. He didn't give you a checklist for masculinity. He gave you the relentless, lifelong task of self-confrontation, of sitting in the silence of your own mind until the illusions crack, until the voice whispering you're nothing without her begins to fade. And that voice will fight to survive. It will scream that you need her, that you're incomplete without her, that no man can thrive without feminine approval. But Jung's work whispers something fiercer. The man who can stand without her, without validation, without applause, is the man who is free. Free from projection, free from performance, free from the tyranny of being someone else's idea of a man. And when you reach that place, you don't become cold or distant. You become real, rooted, alive in your own essence. And that's when, paradoxically, women feel most drawn to you. Not because you need them, but because you don't. And you'll smile, not out of cruelty, but out of understanding. You'll see that she's on her own journey, that she must face her own animus, her own illusions. You can't do that work for her. You can't save her from herself. You can only do what Jung did. Walk your path so fearlessly that you become a mirror reflecting truth to those brave enough to look. Most will turn away, but a rare few will thank you. And that, my friend, is the difference between being loved for the role you play and being respected for the man you've become. When that moment arrives, when you realize you no longer need to perform, you'll notice something peculiar. People will grow uneasy around you. They'll sense something they can't name. Your presence will unsettle them because you no longer fit their neat categories. Jung warned that the individuated man is not embraced by society. He's feared, misjudged, called aloof or prideful. But the truth is more dangerous. You've become untouchable, unbuyable, unmanipulable, because you see through the game. And here's the irony. The very people who once craved your attention, your validation, your compliance will resent you for not needing theirs. Women, especially those still gripped by the fantasy of the perfect man, will call you emotionally distant. They'll say you're too cerebral, too detached. But what they mean is they can no longer control you. You've stepped off their stage, you've stopped reading their lines, and without that script, they don't know how to handle you. Because you've stopped being a character and started being a man. Jung once said that the gods have become diseases, that what ancient societies called divine possession, modern psychology calls neurosis. And men chasing validation are the sickest of all. You think you're being romantic when you say things like, "I'd do anything for her," or "she's my everything." But Jung would shake his head and tell you that what you call love is a refusal to carry your own soul. It's easier to project your meaning, your purpose onto a woman than to face it yourself. But here's the brutal truth. When she realizes she wasn't built to carry your soul, she will let it go. She must let it go, because no woman, no matter how devoted, can bear the weight of a man who refuses to bear himself. And when she drops it, you'll feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her. Because in that moment, when the illusion crumbles, you finally face the truth. The work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. In that raw clarity, you have two paths. You can blame her. You can grow bitter. You can join the chorus of men who point fingers at women, mocking them, resenting them, swearing them off like cowards too afraid to face their own void. Or you can do what Jung demanded. Turn inward. Begin the lonely, terrifying, liberating work of individuation. Become whole without needing someone else to complete you. Because the woman you're chasing out there, she's a reflection of the part of yourself you've abandoned. Until you face that part, every relationship will be a performance, every connection a transaction, every love a deception. But when you do face it, when you integrate your own anima, you become a man who no longer needs to chase. You don't pursue, you don't manipulate, you don't perform. You stand firm, rooted in your truth. And from that place, something extraordinary happens. You stop attracting women who want a character. You attract women who want the real you. You'll know her when you meet her because she won't demand a performance. She won't rewrite your story. She won't fall for a fantasy of you. She'll stand before you, raw and real, not as a deity seeking worship, but as a human ready to walk her own path alongside yours. No masks, no projections, no games. And when you meet her, not the illusion, but the real her, you'll see the difference immediately. She won't shower you with grand promises. She won't treat you like the missing piece of her puzzle. She won't seduce you with talk of completion. Because she isn't looking to be completed. She isn't looking to be saved. She's done her work. She's faced her own shadow. She's confronted her own animus. She's burned through her own illusions. And that's why she won't need you to perform. She won't need you to carry her soul. She'll stand there, whole in herself, looking you in the eye, not as a man she wants to shape, but as a man she's ready to meet. And in that meeting, there's no desperation, no clinging, no performance, only truth. And that truth, Jung taught, is the rarest and most dangerous kind of love, the kind that demands nothing but offers everything, because it's born not of need, but of freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to walk away, freedom to stand together without illusions, without masks, without fear. But here's the warning. Most of you will never know this, because most of you will stop short. You'll settle for the performance. You'll settle for the fantasy. You'll settle for the fleeting rush of being seen as someone you're not, because facing who you truly are feels too heavy. But if you have the courage, the raw, gut-wrenching courage, to keep walking, to keep standing alone, to strip away every false layer you've built to win approval, you'll eventually find yourself at the edge of something terrifyingly beautiful. You'll find you. And when you do, women will no longer be the source of your identity. They'll no longer be the mirror you use to feel whole. They'll become something else entirely. Partners, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not saviors. And you'll love them not because you need them, but because you choose to. From a place of strength, of wholeness, of knowing, without apology, who you are. Carl Jung didn't give you a roadmap. He gave you a warning. Every man who refuses to confront himself will become a slave to the projections of others, especially women's projections. But he also gave you a challenge, to walk the path of individuation, to stop blaming women for the roles you choose to play, to stop seeking wholeness in someone else's gaze, to stop waiting to be chosen. Because the man who chooses himself, fully, unapologetically, relentlessly, is the man who cannot be swayed by fantasy. He cannot be seduced by performance. He cannot be reduced to a character in someone else's story. He becomes the author of his own life. And if you felt this message stir something deep within you, don't just move on. Don't let this be another fleeting thought you consume and forget. Take a moment to like this post. Share it with a man who needs to hear this truth and follow for more. Your support isn't just for us. It's for the next man still trapped in the illusion, waiting to be freed. Help us spread this message. Help us awaken the world, one man at a time. And if you're ready to dive deeper into this journey, check the link below and join the movement. Because the time to wake up is now.